Deuce to 7 is like reverse poker. Obviously someone complained that they always get bad hands, and in Deuce to 7 it's strictly the worst hand wins. And aces count high as they would in high poker. So the worst hand you can make is 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, because if you had 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you'd have a straight. So straights and flushes don't count. They actually count for high, so they would count against you for the worst hand or for a low hand. So it's the worst high poker hand wins, and the good hands are usually like 5 cards headed by a 9 or better. Anything better than that is a really good hand. Typically it starts off like 100, 200 blinds and maybe 25 ante, and goes up from there in a tournament. So yeah, there's generally blinds as well as antes. It's not that much different from playing ace to 5 low ball, except that straights and flushes count against you and the aces are high. So a lot of people have experience with ace to 5 low ball, and in that game an 8 is a good hand and better. And so usually the people who played that game, you just say, okay, now a 9 is good because everything's moved up one notch because you take the ace out of there. Although nowadays I think people have played a lot of triple draw Deuce to 7. But triple draw Deuce to 7 isn't really that much like single draw Deuce to 7. Single draw Deuce to 7 is really pure poker in that it's not very many bets, and very typically someone raises, someone calls before the flop, and then after the flop someone bets, either bluffing or they're there, and you just have to make a decision if you think they've made it or they haven't. Miscalling hands I don't think happens any more often in low ball than high poker, but most poker rooms have a rule that if you call your hand better than it is and you force someone to throw their hand away, if you produce a worse, if you don't have that good a hand, they win. So I never throw my hand away until I see my opponent's hand. I think the biggest mistake people make in Deuce to 7 is probably, especially in the tournament level, is not playing aggressively enough. In a tournament, as a matter of fact, last year there was a very inexperienced field in the Deuce to 7, because we have a lot of the internet players playing who hadn't played much of it, and it happened that we had a big game that went all night, a really good game. I played till noon and then quit the game and went and played, but most people kept playing in the cash game. So it was the weakest field that there has been. But these internet players really didn't know what they were doing, but they just were moving their chips, and it was pretty inexperienced final table, and people played a lot of bad hands. But it also made them tough to play against. People were playing jacks and queens and all sorts of goofy stuff, but they were moving people off hands, and a lot of times someone would open, someone just raised with a pat jack or pat queen, and the other guy throw away his draw to a 9. So I have to be on the lookout this year for that, where people are going to be playing aggressively, especially people who don't know the game are just going to figure just shoot their chips in and hope for the best. And I may have to make some tough calls.